There's so much more going on in the world around us, in the universe, than we know. I love this quote that somebody sent me a few years ago. It says, "It is the commonest of mistakes to consider that the limit of our power of perception is also the limit of all there is to perceive." And it's really beautiful because even those of us who know there's more, I mean, I didn't. I remember when I was living down there in our van, and there was something being put on called Mandala Society for Holistic Health meetings. This was in about maybe 76 or 77. And I said to my husband, "Hey, honey, look at this. We're not the only people who know that the mind and the body work together." Because it was not like it is now, where everybody assumes that's the truth. We went to those meetings, and I met a man whose name was Swami Satchitananda. I don't know how many of you know him, but I could just say, now I know the word Swami, as Swamis go, he was the real deal. Beautiful man. That man was speaking to a crowd of 5,000 people without a microphone, and we heard every word. Everybody heard every word. He was such a beautiful soul. Again, talk about what our mind, what we're perceiving. And we're not trying to be bad people or arrogant, or we just, even today, I mean, I'll speak about myself. I get caught many, many times, maybe even most of the time, thinking that what I see is the truth, that I know the truth, that I have something all figured out. And I've been learning over all of these years now, since Yogananda picked me up and put me in medical school. I sort of felt like I should pay some attention to him. I thought, whoever he is, he knew something I didn't know. Because it was very clear to me that it was the right thing in a big way, that that's where I belong. I was on my way to get a PhD in psychology. My current husband's a psychologist. I adore him, I adore the profession. But I am so eternally grateful that I didn't get a PhD in psychology. Anyway, I'm on the right track, and they knew that. But the truth is that that is what's available to every one of us. Now I know, with just a little awareness, a little effort, and I mean it, not much, miracles start happening. So we are living in a very interesting and rather extraordinary time. We're living in an age that is not Ananda. By the way, this is what many great teachers, scientists know. It's called the age of energy. Now, we all know that, of course. I mean, everybody in this room's old enough to sit down and give a whole list of things that didn't exist when we were born, that exist now, that you couldn't have conceived of. Fortunately, somebody did, or they were given the answer, like I was given the answer about medical school. But that's what's happening. We're in an age where we can perceive energy, where we can use it in different ways, where we're watching the world around us be transformed, and we see that outwardly. And now we're at a time, and probably for at least 10 or 15 years, or more, but I mean really that the public knows it, where the physicists are giving us such a great hand, because the physicists are starting to say what every great saint, I don't care what religion they are. I mean, really, I'm on this path, but we teach a lot about other saints. We just gave a 4-week class on saints from all other religions. I've studied, as I'm sure many of you have. I mean, you're here for a reason, and God was in the title of this talk. So I know I don't have to be very convincing, but saints in every religion have always said to us, everything is energy. And basically they've said, everything is energy, just vibrating at different frequencies. And from the human perspective, that difference in those vibratory frequencies gives us the illusion that we're separate and the things in the world are separate. And we actually feel like we're separate from those chairs. And Marianne said last night in a gathering that we had here, he said, you know, I can't fall through this chair. And I'm going to believe him that he can't. But is there anybody in the world who has the power to perceive things and energy at the same frequency who could put their hand right through the chair? I know there are. I've watched psychic surgeons now. It's weird. It still weirds me out. But put their hands right in front of my eyes inside of somebody's abdomen and heal them. We know about people who are in two places at once. We know Jesus came back after 3 days. We know, for those of you who have read Autobiography of a Yogi, many saints do. How all of these things are happening is through what they've known and what we are at least intellectually and sometimes experientially getting, that everything is energy, all energy. Energy can neither be created nor destroyed, but it can always be transformed. And that is essential for us to, maybe some of us haven't thought about that since grade school or high school, but it's essential to anything spiritual, to anything about healing. And it's also such a statement of extraordinary hope. They didn't say sometimes things can be transformed. They didn't say under these circumstances, but not these. It's a physical law of the universe. Energy can always be transformed. And to us, what that means is physically, emotionally, mentally, spiritually, we always have the ability, whether we exercise it or not, we always have the ability to transform ourselves. And that's where all of the hope and all of these aspects of healing, not just healing at the physical level, because I've had so many beautiful experiences with people. There's a story that I've told a lot. I'm going to finish that sentence first. I no longer practice the Jewish religion, but sometimes I still speak like a Jew. We don't finish our sentences. We answer questions with questions. But, where people, it has been their time to die. They're leaving. But they have either come to me or been brought to me without their understanding why, or other people. This is not just me, by the way. So that they can go through some major transformation in their life before they leave. A lot of you have already heard me say this. I worked many years of my life with addicts and alcoholics, which I love doing because there's something about that group of people that when they choose to get clean and sober and stay that way, it almost always is through a spiritual awakening. Not 100% of the time, but very close. So to me, I could practice medicine and come out of my closet, my spiritual closet, if you will, and talk to people about a lot of these things. And many of those people would come to me, you know, before we knew about AIDS and hepatitis C, and people were putting needles in their arms and getting these diseases. People would come to me in the last month of their life and ask for help, often in their words, to die well. But there's a story that I wanted to tell you. A woman came to see me in my office once when I was still practicing more traditional medicine than I am right now. And I went out into the waiting room to get her, found her, and I said, come on in, I'm Shanti Rubenstone. I go in, I sit down. She stands, she stays standing. She said to me, I hate doctors. I want you to know I hate doctors. I don't trust them. I don't trust you. I never go to doctors. I'm sort of sitting there. Okay, this is going to be interesting. Really, in my mind right away, I'm saying, I need your help. And I do this, I mean those guys. I need your help. What to say, how to say it in a way that people can hear what it is their next step for all of us. right? This is the best way for us to move along the path, not to try and get to the end right away. It doesn't happen for most of us. Where are we, and how can we just keep doing better and better, each of us, on our individual path? She talked for minutes, no exaggeration. Finally, I said to her, would you like to sit down? You know, she sat down, and I said, let's start over. I'm Shanti. And she told me her name. Anyway, she was ranting. She was a very angry woman, very angry. But her story was that she had had vaginal bleeding. She was in her early 60s for over a year and had not wanted to see a doctor, so she didn't. But 2 days before she saw me, she went to see a doctor who examined her, who said to her, you have incurable cancer. I should set you up with hospice. I mean, first visit, she said to me, I think I was there 15 minutes. And unfortunately, I believed her because I've seen it. So I said to her, look, let me hear the whole story, let me examine you, let's get some tests. I figured if somebody said that, it was probably true, but that was not going to help her. That was just going to give her next ammunition to hate doctors, and more importantly, to hold on to her anger, you know, which was probably the source of what was happening anyway. So when we were, and she ranted the whole time she was there. She told me over and over and over how furious she was with her husband. She just kept telling me, and I can't stand him, and wouldn't you know it, she says, I was just going to leave him. Well, I doubted she was just going to leave him. They'd been together for a long time. Now this. But it kept coming back into our conversation. I was actually staying very calm with her. And so when she got up to leave, I gave her a prescription for a CAT scan of her abdomen and more blood work and many things. And then I said to her, I'll see you back in 2 weeks. I knew I could get the CAT scan the next day, but I wanted to give her time. And I said, I'd like to ask you to do one other thing. Take out my prescription pad, and I write this down. I want you to say 3 nice things a day to your husband. She says, that's not going to be easy. I said, no, I didn't say it would be easy, but I'd like you to do it. Well, why? I said, I think it's just important. And this went on. What do you expect me to say? I said, well, I don't really know, but you told me you're angry because he's always at work. How about number 1? Every time he's there, you go up, you put your arms around him, and you say, honey, I'm so glad you're home with me now. This is just this. She goes, oh. I said, and you come up with the other 2. Anyway, she storms out of the office, literally slams the door. I look at our front desk people, I say, she's angry with me. I don't think she'll be back. Anyway, 2 weeks later, she shows up. She walks in, and we sit down. She did, in fact, have an inoperable uterine cancer. It was everywhere in her abdomen. And we talked about it, and I gave her some choices, many choices. I talked to her a lot about her family. Then I say to her, after about 45 minutes, how are things at home? And she says to me, great, why? And I said to her, you're kidding, right? She goes, no, why? I said, Marnie, 2 weeks ago you were in here, you hated your home. She said, oh, just like this is, I'm not exaggerating this. She said, you know, when I left here, I was angry with you. I said, I sort of knew that. I didn't plan on coming back. I said, I didn't expect you back. She said, and then I decided I would do what you asked me to do to prove you wrong. Fair enough. But you know, within days, and this is the truth, within days, their relationship, everything about her, everything about that whole family started transforming. And we'll talk a little bit about what is involved in that, because that's not just about a cancer, but it's a dramatic and beautiful story, and she died. She died about 2 months later, and I made a lot of home visits. I got to be very involved with her family, her 2 children, her husband. I mean, he sends me a Christmas card, which is beautiful. People are still sending me a Christmas card years later. You know, they're happy, so it's a good thing. But that woman healed. that was a true healing. It's not always what's going on with our body. In fact, it rarely is, because honestly, and this may be a stretch, I don't know any of you really, so I'm just going to speak and hope nobody throws tomatoes at me really, but you know, when we're talking about healing, the only way it makes sense is if we speak about it with some understanding that this life that we're living right now is not the only life we get. That we're talking about healing at the soul level. I'm not talking about the body, because there are such things, which I'll come back to a little bit later, probably, called karma, where we come in sort of compelled to behave in certain ways, to live in certain ways, to either be rich or be poor, to have a beautiful body or a body that gives us a lot of trouble, to love the color red or to hate it. All of these predispositions come in what we call our astral spine. That essence of us that lives on long after this body is gone. Now, there's no other way to talk about healing, because if you happen to live the way I was taught as a young Jewish person, you live, you die, that's it. You eat a lot of good food in the middle there. You know, there's never a talk about what happens next. Jewish people, not all Jewish people, there's now metaphysical Judaism has really come out in the last decades, but when I was a child it wasn't, and to this day, most Jewish people do not live with these understandings. They are terrified of dying. How could you not be if you just think that's it? I mean, nothing. No matter what this life is like, no matter what I've suffered through, lived through, no matter how much I've loved, you know, you love your child and you're just going to leave and that's it. It would be a horrible thing. But if you've come to realize, and I use that word consciously, that this body is serving as a vehicle for a soul that's on a journey. And the journey is to get back to that place of perfect oneness with our true divine self. Yogananda wrote a book called Divine Will Healing. And there's just 2 quotes from there that I want to read to you. I'll come back to right where I was. He said, perfect health is given by God. Disease is man-made. And we'll come back to that. But he also says here, do not forget that ignorance is the mother of all physical, mental, and spiritual diseases. Abolish ignorance by contacting God, and body, mind, and soul will be healed of all maladies. Now, those are fancy words and difficult to understand for a lot of people, but what he's saying is that our true nature is of the soul, and the soul that was made manifest through this thought in the mind of this super consciousness. You can call it whatever you want, God, the angels, your highest self, call it what you want. It's that from which everything, not just us, but our pets that we love, the ants in our house that we don't love, the rocks, the minerals, whatever it is, has come from this same source. And essentially what we're doing, we've come out, and we've been out for a long time, but it's the nature of that energy to want to find its way home. And as we come back towards our true home, we call that healing. This is the whole story of the prodigal son. Really, if you think of it, the prodigal son thought he wanted what was out in the world. So do probably all of us in some ways. And even, you know, there are people in this room who I know, but my life has been for decades now dedicated to self-realization. That's the name of this path, to realizing my true self, which is oneness with the divine. But, you know, what just happened this morning, somebody said something to me about something that I had that they loved. And I said, yeah, I didn't want to have to come back to satisfy that need. You know, because I still have to go out and buy comfortable shoes and a nice shirt. And, you know, I drive a BMW. I mean, like these things. So we all still are facing out a little. It's okay. Some of us are facing out more than others. That's even okay. We get sick when we think that's where our happiness comes from. It makes us ill. That illness can be anything. It can be anxiety, it can be depression, it can be insomnia, it can be recurring headaches, it can be uterine cancers. It doesn't matter. Whenever any of us reaches that place that we are perfectly in tune with, attuned to, aware of our divine, our oneness with the divine, not just our divine nature, because probably many of us in this room know that, but we know it up here. We don't know it in the way that we are living that yet. When that happens, we don't even need these bodies. These bodies, as I was saying a while ago, they're vehicles for us. They're beautiful vehicles. This is why we have to treat them well. This is why I'm not going to talk much about healing at the physical level, but why do we care so much about exercising, about giving our bodies good food, you know, about taking care of them? So this is another thing. People often come to see me now. I have a practice called transformational medicine, which is obviously, I want to work with people who love to transform themselves. But people come to me because they think I'm against medicine. And I have to say to them right away, absolutely not. How could I be against medicine? Traditional medicine. I'm not against anything. I'm for whatever it is you need. If you have appendicitis, guess what? I'm going to send you right to the emergency room. If you have pneumonia, I'm going to get irritated with you if you don't want to take an antibiotic. But I might say to you, take this antibiotic, which is as much a part of the divine as anything anybody does by laying their hands on you, or praying for you, or giving you an herbal remedy or a flower essence. And take that penicillin like you know that to be true. And in fact, put it on your altar if you have one. And ask God or whoever you speak to or however that works for you to bless it, to hold it in that divine light, so that when you take that in, you are inviting healing energy. You're not apart from it. You're not thinking you'll just be over here and keep smoking your cigarettes and not taking your asthma medicines and, you know, whatever else, living in polluted environments, which many of us do. Think you don't have to do anything about it, and every time you get a pneumonia, you'll just take some antibiotics. That can go on for a lot of lifetimes, and it gets old quickly. Paramahansa Yogananda called that anguishing monotony. I couldn't think of the first word from it. Anguishing monotony. How many times do we have to do the same things till we go, this isn't working? It's not working. And we often live with that sense that if I just get one more thing right, if I put one more thing in place, if I just get something as silly as a few more pairs of shoes, or the right car, or the right house, or not so silly as I really want to do this kind of work, I need a job in this field, or I need the right partner. And, you know, as we progress on a spiritual path, the things that we hold on to, they're a little more refined. I mean, they don't sound as silly as needing another pair of shoes when there's 40 or 50 or 60 in your closet, which we know many people do. And by the way, I'm not judging them. I'm really not. Because everybody's right where they need to be. I feel a lot of pain for these people when they keep thinking that that's what's going to bring them happiness or contentment, or, you know, that phrase, when the going gets rough, the rough go shopping, you know, whatever. So it's you know, we laugh, but anybody in this room has ever done a little bit of shopping therapy? I mean, you know, these things they're not so far away from us. That's what I'm trying to say. But now we're talking about how are we genuinely going to heal. So now we have this knowing that everything is made of energy. By the way, the same source of energy that I was talking about, that's part of this super conscious, I'm going to use the word divine energy, that for reasons that I can't answer, that none of us probably would understand, and it's not worth going into, that energetic, that source of energy decided it would be a good idea to manifest itself. So put a little bit of energy behind that thought, and then that energy is out, and then that energy takes form. And here we are, and here is everything around us. So I started to say before, when you back up, we're all headed back to the same place. We're all headed back, and any of you meditate or even pray or have found a job that's a little more uplifting maybe than your last one, whatever it is that you've developed some awareness of being out of tune or off or in the wrong place, you know as you move closer and closer to this, which I can now call truth, that calmness comes a little more easily. Maybe you sleep a little better. You know, maybe you're not arguing with your partners as much or your children, because you're coming back to the essence of who you are and where we really belong. There's a beautiful, beautiful story that I lived through decades ago. I don't know how many of you know who Bernie Siegel was. I think he's passed, but I'm not sure. But a Yale surgeon who started having these realizations that there was something other than what he was taught in Western medicine going on. You have to realize it was revolutionary at the time. I mean, people were not thinking. Nowadays, I wouldn't say half the billboards in Los Angeles, but some small percentage of them speak to this. We all know it. These words aren't foreign that I'm speaking to you, and I know it. It's different then. Somebody sent a patient to Bernie who had a cancer that was going to be a very complicated surgical procedure. And Bernie was the best, and they sent them to him. I met Bernie and this man many times, by the way. And Bernie looked at this man and he said, you know, I don't think I'm going to be able to operate on this tumor. Again, it's extensive. And he said, let me talk with you a little bit about yourself. He started talking to this man, and he finds out that this man was an Eastern European Jew who emigrated, maybe during the Second World War, maybe some other hard time, landed at Ellis Island in New York, where many of the Jews in this country started, with his parents, and it was a new life for them. And they went to the Lower East Side of New York, his father and mother, and they opened a kosher restaurant where everything was soy. So no meat, but they had, you know, soy chicken, soy beefs. It was a thing at the time. There weren't so many of them. And his father decided that he, the son, who was a violinist, and he was a child protege, he had a $50,000 Stradivarius. He was a little boy. This is back in the 50s. And I mean, a $50,000 violin, I don't even know. And that's what he did. In Europe, he played the violin. Father takes the violin, puts it up in the attic and says, this is useless. You're going to come and serve soy chicken to our customers with us. He never touched the violin. In all these years, now he's sitting in Bernie's office with this big cancer. It's a true story. And Bernie says, you never played the violin. My dad just felt it was frivolous, which I could understand also. Bernie said, I want you to get the violin out and play it. And the man says, I haven't touched it. And he said, it doesn't matter. I'm not asking you to make what you would call perfect music. Start playing your violin. You can imagine the end of this story. The man started playing the violin, which he was called to do. These child proteges, that's not something, you know, Mozart couldn't sit down when he was 5 years old and write a symphony. No 5-year-old could write a symphony, unless they already knew how to write a symphony, or they had a direct line to God himself. They were hearing the music from some other place. And if you read, the author's name is Bell, and the name of the book is Conversations with Musicians, or Talks with Famous Musicians. Extraordinary book. He spent time with Brahms and Beethoven, and spent time with all these people. The great ones all say, I hear this music. I go into a state, you know. They went into these transcendent states. They didn't have a name for it then. Somebody yelled at Beethoven because of some of his piano concertos. True story. Beethoven screamed at him, which he was known to do. I won't scream. I was receiving that music from God himself. Do you think I care about your hands? That's what he said to him. Well, that's what happens when somebody comes up to you on the beach and says you're going to medical school and you know it, beyond a shadow of a doubt. Or they hand you a symphony. Or they tell this child from he's 2 years old he's playing violin better than those people in Europe. You can't take that away from people. We get sick. That man started playing the violin, and over the next year his cancer just went away. It disappeared. And I was meeting him many years later. These things are real. It's real that it matters about doing what we need to do in the world, to get quiet enough to be able to hear these messages that come to us, that we're not so busy and in so much noise. Most of the noise is in our own head, by the way. Here's another interesting fact, speaking about heads, because, you know, I've been waiting, as have many people who meditate and who feel like we know, it's not understanding. We've just seen it so much. I mean, the truth about what we can bring to our patients, what we can bring to everybody. You know, now science is catching up with it. So now science has this explosion of research on the brain, an explosion of it. And they think they're discovering something new. Well, we're all happy that they're discovering it and proving it because we have fancy MRIs and EEGs, and it's wonderful. I don't want to sound glib, because now we can get up and talk to people. You know, we can just speak to people anywhere, and we have a way to help them listen. But they're now saying to us, there was you know, I don't know if he was a Buddhist, and I don't know what his profession was. His name was Rick Hansen. He had a wonderful line to present all of this, that the brain loves negativity more than positivity. We actually come in wired that way. Now, I think that's just, I've really had some challenging conversations with God about this. Why would you do that to us? But the amygdala is really wired. It has something like 7 times as many negative thoughts as it does positive. And it will remember every negative experience that you have much more easily and for longer periods of time than positive experiences. This spiritual path, this path to healing, which in the end is spirit. I mean, we can couch it in whatever names we want. We're talking about our soul's healing. As our mind goes, as the soul goes, the body will follow. And it takes a lot of effort, a lot of commitment. This is why some people say the spiritual path is not for sissies. It isn't, because we have not just these egos trying to pull us out and are enamored with everything in the world, but the amygdala itself, right in the core of our brain, is working against us. So this guy, Rick Hansen, he said, the brain is wired in such a way that it's like Velcro with negativity and Teflon with positive thoughts. And I just love that. That is a great way of putting it. And now it's been proven to be true. Isn't that an incredible, I mean, it's just an amazing bit of information that it is absolutely true that to be well, true wellness, which is a state of mind, Swami Kriyananda says, something that needs to be cultivated. We can learn it. Again, we're not talking about physical wellness. We're talking about a state of mind. It's hard. It's very challenging. So we can't be too hard on ourselves But we can always point ourselves in the right direction. And that really matters, because just the smallest bit of turning in the right direction changes all of our neurochemistry, changes the wiring in our brain. I'm just giving you guys the proof first in case you need it. But what we've known, anybody who meditates, anybody who's had any either deep or uplifting or expansive experience in meditation will tell you that once you just have a taste of that, then you at least know where you're going. You know, I often said God played a trick on me long before I knew it. When I first had that experience that I was telling you about of meeting Swami Satchidananda, I walked out of there and I said to my husband, I have no idea what these words mean. I said to him that my life is about to be different than I ever thought it was going to be. And this is also true. I was lifted up into 3 months of what felt like perfect joy. It's, you know, I just don't even know how to describe it. I just felt like I was in love with everyone and everything in the world. My husband was so worried about me because I was in La La Land as far as he was concerned. He literally started driving me to and from UCSD, where I was taking some courses because I thought I was going for a PhD, but I was doing it in the adult school at the time. And after 3 months, I came out of it. I cried for a month. I was just left with myself. I was so annoying. I was so neurotic. I mean, I was just, you know, I have this big personality. I mean, I still have it. It's a pain in the rear end, but, you know, here it is. But at the time, it was so painful to me to just be back with myself. But I realized later, after finding Ananda, this is what mothers and fathers do with their children. They give, you know, a little 11-month-old a taste of candy. And then they stand across the room and they say, come here, sweetie, you want more candy? They want them to walk. You know, they want them to get on the road. Believe me, once they're walking, any parent in the room knows you're really sorry they're walking, but at the time, they want to take pictures of their kids walking. And they tempt them after they give them a taste. And this is what happens to all of us. Even anybody who's in this room, you just simply wouldn't be here if you weren't far along on your spiritual search. It doesn't have to be Ananda. It doesn't matter. Ananda is certainly not for everyone. There are so many beautiful ways to discover and hear, feel your soul's call, and to start responding to it. But, you know, in the Bhagavad Gita, there's a beautiful line which we say every week in our festival. The line, the way it's written in this piece that we read at the end of our Sunday service, it says, even the worst of sinners, by steadfast meditation on me, speedily comes to me. That's one line. But then the next line is, right from the Bhagavad Gita, even a little practice of this inward religion will free you from dire fears and colossal suffering. Now, those words sound dire, and Swami Kriyananda wrote it. But those dire fears and colossal suffering, from the soul's perspective, really looks like a little bit of jealousy, a little bit of greed, a little bit of competition with the wrong person, gossip, negativity, you know? That's what dire fears and colossal suffering is. Because in that same festival we say, when even repeatedly, nor did wisdom come to us, we say. We're on this journey, nor did wisdom come to us, when repeatedly we lost everything we had. How many lives do we go through? How many times in this life do we see, that didn't bring me any happiness, that didn't bring me happiness? This world is hypnotizing in exactly 180 degrees in the wrong direction. It is, and it's so subtle. This is what I was saying before. The further along we go on the path, the more subtle it becomes, so you hardly know it. And all of a sudden I'll find myself in a conversation and I'll say to myself, God, you have such a negative tone of voice. Somebody would even think you didn't like that person, or why are you being so critical? It's embarrassing to me. I'm talking about myself now. And it's so frustrating. It's like, really? Everything I know, and I'm still there? But yes. This is what happens. We're on a journey. We have to just keep saying, okay, look at that. I can be that critical. I can be that negative. Okay, God, if you're everything, you're that negativity, you're the criticism, I'm starting again right now. I know where I want to go. I'm headed there. I'm definitely going there. And we have to just keep bringing ourselves back in whatever way works for us in the moment. I'll tell you when I'll come back to this, that this is the truth. So I hope it's not too discouraging. We still have an hour. And that is, ultimately, the only way to transcend the ego and the hold it has on us, which we could put ego equals dis-ease. If I had a board here, we could write that. It's everything the ego wants us to do. And again, in our society, we talk about being egocentric, egotistical. It sounds blatant. No, it's subtle. It's the ego's job. The more it draws us out, it's just doing a good job of what it's meant to do. But our job is to be stronger than that, to find extraordinary willingness and willpower and perseverance and commitment and courage. You know, for those of you who have ever been to an Ananda Sunday service, Swami Ananda wrote a book, Affirmations for Self-Healing. And it's a beautiful book, and is it here? Yeah. It's probably out there for sale too, but I highly recommend it. I don't care what your path is, because, and I'll grab this and I'll show you. If I look through the index here, it says success. These are affirmations that we read one a week. So you read the affirmation, you say the affirmation over and over, then we have a prayer. I mean, this is what we do. So it's success, love, happiness, energy, sharing. It's all these things. They're beautiful, and we take one a week, and we can work on it. So the one for energy, which I'm going to have us do later, is within me lies the energy to accomplish all that I will to do. Behind my every act is God's infinite power. Within me lies the energy to accomplish all that I will to do. Behind my every act is God's infinite power. Now, who wouldn't want to say that or be studying that? You know, we don't have to have these guys be our gurus. It doesn't matter. And that whole book is filled with that. I'm going to talk in just a little bit about affirmations and how we can use them, because I'm certainly not going to leave you with the thought that it's such hard work and the ego's holding on. That's all true, but we're stronger than that. I want to just say one more thing too about energy. Swami Kriyananda, one of the chapters in this Raja Yoga course that we teach is on energy, because, you know, it's essential. It's the building blocks of everything that we see. So again, energy in a spiritual way, and he writes beautifully. So he brings these concepts that are, well, they're beyond universal. I mean, I don't even know what they're infinite, is really the word. And he brings them into these little minds in a way that we can understand it, to start moving towards incorporating those truths in our life. But the chapter on energy is so beautiful. And Yogananda, this is just a little aside, but I have to catch up to what I want to tell you. There are many techniques that we teach, again, many paths teach many techniques. We have a particular way we teach meditation called Hangsa. We teach yoga postures. We teach a lot of things. But one of the things that we teach along the way towards getting initiated into a very particular kind of meditation called Kriya Yoga, which I think at least some of you are what we call Kriya Bonds. And it's a very high level technique, kind of a very focused, very powerful, strong technique to, again, try and bring us into that place where we can know some of these things from within, not from outside, not in the words that I'm speaking, but to know them as truths. And he founded this whole form of a practice called energization exercises. There's 39 exercises, and they just, as you practice them, teach you how to draw on this infinite source of energy that we are a part of. It's not even like we live in it, we do, but we're a part of it. Remember, if we weren't seeing things through human eyes, we would just see that we're all part of one great essence. And so these exercises teach us how to draw that energy in and use it and place it where we want. Like the way you do if you hit a tennis ball, you don't just go whacking at it. You get your foot back, you get your racket back, you keep your eye on the ball, you get ready, you hit it right where you want it to go, hopefully. That's what we do with energy. That's what these energization exercises teach us. What he says, what Yogananda says about energy, in terms of talking about it and teaching us these exercises, is the greater the will, the greater the flow of energy. The greater the will, the greater the flow of energy. Now remember, we're out here as matter. When we back up a little bit, we become energetic beings. That's a good thing. When we back up further, we move into a causal realm. So we want to find this energy. We want to maximize it. We want to learn how to relate to energy consciously, not unconsciously. Most of us live pretty unconsciously. I don't know how many times I've gotten home and not remembered corners that I knew I had to drive by, places that I passed. You meet somebody and 2 minutes later you can't remember their name. We're not as conscious as we would like to be. And the more consciously we live, the more calmness, the more patience, the more kindness. I mean, we can think of all those wonderful words, but the more focused we are with our energy, all of that flows through our life. So Yogananda says, the greater the will, meaning, because I was just telling you, to walk down this path, we need willpower and we need willingness, and we need much more. We need concentration, we need awareness. These are all very meaningful words as we go. But even to begin to heal, and I don't care if right now you have some physical disease and you're just kind of hell-bent on curing the physical disease. That's why I told you the Bernie Siegel story. And I could tell you so many more stories. It works. It's like the last line in the AA meetings when they're talking, they're ending a meeting. The last line is they're talking about their program. And they say, it works if you work it. And remember, that whole program was based on spiritual principles. Yes, this stuff all works if we work it, if we use it. The greater the will, the greater the flow of energy. I just wanted to say to you what Swami Kriyananda says about this, because it's so important in this chapter on energy. He says that one line can change everything about your life. And he says, I want to make sure I quote him exactly because it's so beautiful. He says, in this sense, the axiom, the greater the will, the greater the flow of energy, is as true for man's relationship to the cosmic energy as to the energy of his own body. So we're talking about healing body, mind, and soul. The greater the will, the greater the flow of energy. And then he says this, remember it, he says, emblazon it in your mind. This is a man who, there's no fluff in what he writes. He writes this is a highly evolved saint, whether he's your saint or not. It would be like reading something that St. Francis wrote. I'm not Catholic, but I listen to what St. Francis said. Like that. Swamiji wrote this. Remember it, emblazon it in your mind. Repeat it to yourself several times a day. This single truth can revolutionize your life. That's a magnificent statement. Even if you did nothing else, but you walk around and go, okay, the greater the will, the greater the flow of energy. The greater the will, the greater the flow of energy. I am moving towards wellness. If that's what you can do right now, You know, I'll just tell you one other thing, and then we'll see if people need to take a little break. Yogananda used to say it's very important to smile. He would say it now, but he's not here. I mean, he only used to say it because he's gone. He used to say, if you're not somebody who smiles, and I know many people like that, you never see them smile. He said, go in front of a mirror several times a day and lift the corners of your mouth up and make yourself be in that, really it's a kind of a mudra in a way, but in that position. Lift the corner. And I always thought, I get it, because, you know, if you're somebody who smiles, people, I mean, I've had people move me from coach to first class just because I smiled at them on the way in. No kidding. People love good energy. How can they not? And I'm sure there are other people who have had it. You walk around the world, you're in a good place, you smile a lot, you look at people like you care about them. They don't have any idea what happened to them. They just want to do nice things for you. It's not you. It's this energy flowing through you. It's never really us. We can't do that. If I just tried to be nice all the time, I had this little thought about the annoying talk I just had with this person about the 4 classes I need to prepare for about this. We're limited. But as long as I stay tuned into them, unlimited energy. That's why Swamiji said, this is true for the cosmic source of energy. Energy can neither be created nor destroyed, but it can always be transformed, and we have access to unlimited energy. It's the truth. I mean, I'm going a little further than Swami did, but I just want to say, memorize it. Tell yourself, within me lies the energy to accomplish all that I will to do. Energy's never tired. Energy doesn't get bored. Energy doesn't get irritated that it has one more task before it can leave the office. Energy doesn't get irritated if you walk in and you're exhausted and your partner says, here, take the kids. You've been out working all day. Take the kids because they've been out working all day. Whatever it is, within me lies the energy to accomplish all that I will to do. I will tell you, it has revolutionized my life in the last 40 years, 35, since I discovered it. These things, these affirmations, and begun over this time to whatever degree right now. I have a lot of work to do, but I've done a lot. Wherever I am, to remember to use that. I can't tell you how much better I feel, how much easier life is, and I see it in everybody around me. You know, somebody once said to Swami Ananda, when they went up to Ananda village, which is the founding, it's the place where Ananda was found, and it still exists. It's up outside of Nevada City. And a visitor was up there, and they said, boy, there's so many great people here. And Swamiji said, you know, if you see one great person, or you see 2, or even a few, you can say it's them. When you see communities like this, of people who are willing and open, you have to understand it's coming through them from somewhere else. It has to be. It has to be. He didn't say exactly those words, but that was the meaning. It's never really us. And that is the most important aspect of healing. Remembering that we're not the source, we're not the final word. Our job is to find out how to become open channels for this energy to flow and to be living our lives in such a way that we are attuning ourselves, like we're tuning forks, to a higher vibration. Wherever we are, that we find that soul that's vibrating at a little higher, actually it's a lower frequency, but anyway, the words get backwards, but we feel, I like being in this person's presence. I feel better when I'm in their presence. I feel like they speak the truth often. I think I can relax and feel safe. These are the kinds of things in everyday life. And then we do our best to be near them and to feel. You know, it always reminds me of that scene. This always pops into my mind. It's rather unsavory for a talk like this, but we're going to have Billy Crystal and Meg Ryan and what's the movie?
Harry Met Sally.
When Harry Met Sally. She's sitting there eating her food. Who saw the movie? Did everybody? Because I don't want to have to describe the scene, that's for sure. I'll take whatever she just had. That was actually Billy Crystal's mother who was playing that part. They said that about Meg Ryan. Very cute. Yeah. you see people come to Ananda in Palo Alto, they're new. I say to them, move up and sit in the first 5 rows. Look at the looks on the people's faces who sit in the front rows, and ask yourself, would you like to feel whatever they're feeling to look that way? To really move through life actually loving it and feeling joyful much of the time and having positive experiences? Of course we all would. So we attune ourselves. And of course, I don't want to use any words that will turn anybody off, and I mean that. But the more highly evolved the spiritual teacher, the more we have to benefit and gain from attuning ourselves to their energy. This is what we do with affirmations. We're going to go through a few little experiences here. Because in case you hadn't noticed, I could talk to you for a long time. I do not run out of words. But I mean, they're important words, though. And the stories are things that we remember, and we can go back to the teachings by them. But so is having an experience. So let me stop for 1 minute. Are there any questions or comments? You don't have to be afraid. Whatever you ask, it's going to be the perfect question or statement. Yes?
You spoke about a book, Talks with Famous Musicians.
Composers, yes.
Composers. I'm sorry.
I probably said musicians, but now I remember it's composers.
Who was the author again?
Bell.
Bell?
Is his last name? I'm sorry, I forget. Does anybody in the room know that?
I know the book, but I forget.
Anyway, the author's name is Bell, and it's Talks with Famous Composers.
Thank you.
Very powerful book. It's a deeply spiritual book. I mean, you realize, and when I use that word realize, I mean you don't think it, you don't figure it out, you get it, truthfully, that genius, when we see true genius that touches the heart and soul of most people who see it, hear it, live in it, it's mostly channeled. It's not, it doesn't come from them. And you know, in those days, when this man was sitting down and talking about these people, the most amazing thing to me is, remember I told you I'm just not intellectual, it's not me, but they knew everything. I couldn't believe it. They talk about every phrase in the Bible or the great written works, or as much as they can talk about, you know, where the next treble clef goes. I mean, they knew everything. And because they were open to this extraordinary, really source of infinite knowledge. And I know for sure that whenever, as each of us gets more and more open, we know things that there would be no way to know. It comes to us. Where did that come from? I've had so many beautiful experiences in medicine, beautiful, that have had me on my knees, and I mean that, because answers come like that, and somebody's life is saved, and I had nothing to do with it. Nothing to do with it. You know, I'll tell you one story, because nobody's asking questions, I'll tell you one. I was in my office in a day, I had a hugely, hugely busy practice in Baltimore for a few years. And I was covering for both my partners and myself. And I get a call. This patient had never seen me, but one of the women at the front desk, Dr. Rubenstone, he says he's got a cold and he needs to see you, and he's a friend of so-and-so. I, by the way, have the third largest practice in the United States at this time. 6,000 patients, it's a lot of people, believe me. 1,500 is huge. But I said, I can't see a new patient for a cold today. No, tell him I'm sorry. She comes back, he calls back again, he insists on seeing you. I said, tell him to go to an urgent care clinic. I'm covering my practice, their practice. You know, I think I wound up seeing 40 people that day. That is a lot of people. Anyway, finally she comes back, she says, he's not taking no for an answer. I said, okay. You tell him to come in, you tell him I'm doing nothing but looking in his mouth. This is not going to be a good visit. I mean, that's what I told him. This is not how I like to meet, I swear to you. I mean, I'm telling you this. I said, tell him to come in and he gets 5 minutes, no more. This is never how I would meet a new patient. He comes in, and I'm examining him, and he's like about a 38 or 40-year-old man, I don't remember, healthy, strong, healthy. Something comes to me, listen to his heart, in my head. And I say in my head, no, I'm only giving him 5 minutes. I am not listening to his heart. But this feeling comes, Shanti, put your stethoscope on his chest. And I was irritated. I mean, I really was. I put my stethoscope on his chest, and this guy has a very loud heart murmur. I don't know how to say it, but I knew it was a bad murmur. I mean, any doctor would have. It was not about me. It was a harsh, bad-sounding murmur. I said to him, has anybody ever told you you have a heart murmur? He said, no, I don't have a heart murmur. I said, you actually do have a heart murmur. I'm just wondering, has anybody ever told you? No, nobody told me. I said, look, you're just meeting you, and I'm just meeting, you're just meeting me, and I'm just meeting you. And I said, I promise you, I'm more irritated with you than you are with me. But let me tell you, you have a heart murmur. You need an echocardiogram today or tomorrow morning. You have to believe me. Anyway, it goes on. The secretary says they can't see him tomorrow. I said, get the cardiologist on the phone, speak to him. So-and-so, Shanti, I need this. This afternoon is better. The next day, this guy is down at Hopkins with this aortic aneurysm, a big bulging that sits right where the aorta joins the heart. I mean, if those things rupture, you don't have 3 seconds. And he'd had it since birth. You know, I didn't know this. Nobody can look at me and say, you're a great doctor. No, I was being a terrible doctor. I was doing everything in the world. Do you see what I'm saying? It's just, there's something so much greater than us that's a loving, kind source that was out to save this man's life and that would not let go of me, you know, because I was fighting. I was saying, no, I'm not going to listen to his heart. I told him 5 minutes, he's getting 5 minutes. Amazing story. Then the doctors at Hopkins called. Great pickup, how did you know? I said to them, you wouldn't believe it. You know, I promise you this is not about this being. This is making an effort to open to wisdom, to truth, to love, to listening to your heart speak more often than your mind, to being still enough even in the midst of days that are so busy. We all have those days. We are all flying. I just told, when we were in the car, I told Keshav, I said, my God, I just realized how many billboards are here. We're being bombarded. I've never seen so many billboards as in LA, really. It's amazing. And I mean, I've been to LA before, I never even noticed. We're busy in so many ways. How can we begin to move through that with quiet? Quiet means quiet of the mind, openness of the heart, awareness. So something speaks to us, and we know. And then, when we come back, I'm going to tell us how techniques that we can all do that are helping us and will help us all the time.
Yeah.
Okay, so just a couple of things came up during the break that I wanted to talk about anyway, so I will. The first is this: whatever it is that's going on in our life, and it's in our life because we're magnetizing it. So you know, you often look, you're talking to a friend or telling you about a problem they're having, and you want to say to them, so silly, just do this, it's easy. Yeah, it's easy for me because it's not my karma. It's not tugging on my chakras and my astral spine. I probably already lived through it, I will have to, and boy will I be eating my words. But for the person who's going through whatever they're going through, the things come to us in life to allow us to grow through them because we need them, because it's a way for us to grow. So everything that comes, every illness, every life circumstance that's a challenge. I was just speaking to somebody who just retired. Boy, what a big moment that is. I often say to myself, when you're not practicing medicine anymore, will you be able to quit saying you're a physician? I'm so identified with it, you know? But all of those moments, they are right, they're packed with infinite potential for transformation. We have to start noticing them. Never, you know, when I was a very little girl, I went into a Christian store once to get I forget what the event was, in a Christian's friend's life. I told you I was born and raised Jewish. I hardly knew any Christians. I remember I was afraid to go into the store because Christ was all over the place and that really terrified me. But in that store was a thing that I still have a banner that said, the difference between a stumbling block and a stepping stone is how you use it. And it's one of those simple little wise things. Yogananda always says, there are no such thing as obstacles. There are only opportunities. And again, like these, the first law of thermodynamics, that's not some time. So when something's in your life and it's really hard, and you'd like to embellish it a little bit, which we all do, I used to say, please give me 2 days to whine, then I'll be over. You know, now I try and get it down to 2 hours. I mean, it never serves us. It's there for a reason. It's an opportunity for growth. And the more we hold it that way, the better we are. And here's the other thing about that. You watch 2 kids play tug of war. Swami Ananda used to use this analogy a lot because it's true. If Marion's pulling on a rope and I'm pulling on a rope, he'll probably win anyway. But it's a lot harder with opposing energy. If we're a little of this and a little of that, I want it, but I don't. And okay, it's good, but let me just sit here and tell you how awful it is. We all love our stories, but this is energy in the form of action, in the form of words, anything. Opposing, so much less effective. Just leaves a big hole we can fall into. When we are serious, we stop ourselves. Oh my God, look at that. I'm being negative. Look at that. This is why I don't let any of my friends, we talked about this last night, swear around me. If people continue to swear, I tell them, you either break the habit or we don't have a friendship. It may sound silly to people. I can't stand that negative energy around me. And I say to them, it cheapens your whole talk. You have so many more words. You're smart. You're a lawyer. You're this, you're that. Speak. Don't use these expletives instead of 4 sentences that would be beautiful. But it's all because we have to become diligent about not letting opposing energy in. We have to be very mindful about who we spend our time with. I hate to say it, but it's true. The food we eat, what food has raised energy and what food will bring our energy down. The music we listen to is so important. I was up here for a minute or 2 trying to get people to come back. Nobody came. I chanted Om. You all came. Because it's a cosmic sound. It gets you. Just ask yourself when you're in the next restaurant or somebody's home or your own home, or you're watching a television show, what am I doing with my energy right now? Is this uplifting? And it's fine to watch fun, playful, whatever. But there's so much darkness around. There's so much violence around. Don't think for a minute it's not impacting us. Hugely. So see things as an opportunity and try as hard as you can not to be the inherent opposing force. Everything in one direction. Okay? Now, we have a ceremony that we do every Sunday in our services. It's called a purification ceremony. And it's very beautiful. And the first part of it is we do it with rice and ghee and a fire. And usually, I won't ask you to do this, but usually when we're doing it, everybody stands. Do we have the affirmation? The mantras? Yeah. Usually everybody stands. I'm just going to speak to you about it a little bit. Then I want us to do it because I want you to feel something. We're talking about healing with the power of God. Every one of our lives is a personal, individual pilgrimage. That's what we're on. We're each on a spiritual pilgrimage every day. That pilgrimage, whether we're aware of it or not, in large part is taking place at the very core of our being in what is called our astral or energetic spine. Okay? Sperm and an ovum come together. Spark goes up. Just take my word for all this right now. All these souls waiting need to be reborn because they need to continue their journey. And being born as a human being is a great privilege. I don't have time to talk about it, but we can make enormous progress for our souls in every life if we choose to. We have to choose it. It works if you work it, okay? So that soul the minute it's met with that sperm and ovum, the first cells of the body are formed at the medulla oblongata. And again, not a lot of words about this, but from there, the first parts of the embryo that are formed are the nervous system, the spinal cord, because the energy goes down, then it manifests physically. You have to remember that we're talking about energy. You can do a beautiful experiment with this. You can't, but one can. And we have slides of it that I use with Connie Hernandez, who's a naturopath. She and I give some of these chakra classes together. And she has these beautiful pictures of Kirlian photography, where somebody figured out how to photograph energy. So you take a picture of a leaf, and you see a leaf with all its, whatever the parts are called, but you see not just the leaf, but the under part of it, the little not stems, but inside. Then you cut the leaf in half, and you take another picture right there. And guess what you see? You see the whole leaf, because you cut the physical part of that leaf. You did nothing to the energy of it. The energetic being, essence, is still there. That's what's going on in us at the core of our being. Energetic, astral spine. It's there. There are stops along the way. So it comes in and it manifests down. And on our way back to this astral world, energetic astral world, ultimately causal, we have to reverse that trip. It's not as linear as it sounds. Again, not a class on chakras, but we have these places in the spine that are called vrittis. And these vrittis are little whirlpools of energy that are a bit chaotic. They're dragging on our energy. We're saying, wait a minute, I want to go up and out. I want to get to that place where I realize truth, where I feel calm and peaceful. And these little vrittis are saying, I'm just going to sidetrack you over here, and I'm going to have you be somebody who really loves power. I'm going to get you at your third chakra. In fact, I'll give you the name Hitler. Something like this. And it's extreme. But in every chakra, they're not bad. When we're able to draw the energy in and up, it's that there are actually energetically almost little lotus flower type things, images, that true vortices of energy that can open until energy is just flowing and flowing, and you feel that. That's when you know the truth. When it's blocked, you get confused, you have doubt, you're wishy-washy, you can't make commitments, you're mean to people, your heart's closed, you can't ever find your voice to speak. I'm just running through them and giving you an example. But all those things that we all live with, that's when the energy's going helter-skelter. And we don't want it to do that. We want to find practices, because our job, you see, this is why the astral spine and the chakras and these vrittis, these whirlpools of energy, are so important, because true health is just a process of letting go of everything that we're really not. We're not those vrittis. We're perfect souls. That's why I read you that thing from Yogananda right at the beginning. We are absolutely perfect beings of pure love, of perfect sound, that we can actually hear Om if we meditate enough. Of pure, it's not that we feel calm. We are calmness. That's what I could go on and on. This is why people say God is love. What does that mean? Those words are so hard to understand. But you see, they're the truth, because we are. Like Jesus said, everything I am, you are too, and more. This great being came to say, not what a lot of us have been taught in Christian churches and Catholic churches and even Jewish synagogues. No, he came to say, look at me. I'm here as Christ consciousness, not this body, not this man. And everything I am, you are too. Fortunately, the Jews couldn't hear him at the time. They were sidetracked. That's the problem. But that's part of their problem. There you have it. But do you see what I'm saying? I'm saying what we're doing in this life is not learning something new, but finding our way back to who we really are and always have been. It's just like unwrapping a present. If you get a beautiful diamond, but somebody wraps it in 30 boxes, you're not out to make the diamond. You're just there to take off one wrapping after another, till you come to that pure, beautiful diamond, that pure, beautiful essence of who we are. Am I saying this in a way that makes sense to people? Because this is healing. It is the essence of healing. Now, we have many ways to get there. I thought we would go through this purification ceremony one time, and I want to say to you, what we do, are we going to play the mantras? Yeah. We can. We're going to play Swami Ananda chanting the mantras. You have the words. I suggest you listen. The first one is the Gayatri mantra. These mantras are thousands of years old, and they're the Sanskrit language. The Sanskrit language is based as much on vibration as it is on the meaning of any word. So if you just listen and let that vibration in, I'm going to tell you in 2 sentences what they mean, but you don't need to know what they mean. If you went home and you listened to these mantras over and over, your life will change. I promise you. I guarantee it. Your life will change. I'm not guaranteeing in what direction. I'm not guaranteeing all of your prayers will come true. But it's the beginning of transformation. And as we transform, we run into those trouble spots. Doesn't mean we stop. Doesn't mean we back up or run away. That's why I said it's work. We just keep going. We never forget what direction. So we listen to these mantras. First, the Gayatri, where we are opening up our heart and offering all of the devotion, not emotion. Emotion at the heart chakra is out. I hate them, I'm scared, I'm afraid, they left me. Oh my God, I'm more in love than I've ever been. Oh, wait a minute, that was yesterday, now things are awful. That's emotion. Devotion is taking that energy and raising it up and offering it to the divine. It's essential on the spiritual path, more essential than I have time to say, but the heart chakra, every chakra is important. But this is what happens here. So that first mantra, is this actually set up for me to do it? Yes. Beautiful. I'm just going to do it up here. We offer a little bit of ghee, which is purified butter. It represents our heart's devotion into the fire to be purified, therefore free. The way a fire transforms everything. We are allowing this fire to transform that energy that we're pouring in. Okay? It's devotion. The second time, I'll offer a few grains of rice each time. And as we offer the rice, we do this movement. And you can do it. You watch Marianne and Dharma daily, but one of them will turn around so you see. But you take your hands as if you are right inside of that astral spine, and you gently and lovingly draw that energy up through all of the chakras, and you throw it into the fire to be purified. And you're offering those seeds of karma, moving the tiniest little seed. It's so small, what's keeping us blocked? There's all this beautiful energy, the magnetism for us of our gurus, for all of you, whoever it is, extraordinary magnetism up here, like a magnet drawing us up. Everything in this life is for us to make it to freedom. So we're going to affirm that we're free. I draw that energy up and I throw it in the fire, and it's transformed. And we just keep feeling how much more easily energy flows up our spine. This is something you can all do at home. This is why I wanted to practice it. I want you to feel it. So we'll listen to the mantras. Om Tat Savitur Varenyam Bhargo Devasya Dhimani Dhiyo Yo Nah Prachodayatu. Om Priyambakam Nijamahe Saryam Pushtivardhanam Urvarukam So there are many, many techniques that we can use. Actually, can you come and take all of this away from me, please? Many lists, many techniques that we have. And, you know, for those of you who are on this path, you're probably doing a lot of them. And I'm going to send you home with a paper with many of these things listed on it. Now, they look simple, and they are. But as a great being once said, I'm trying to think if it was Jack Cornfield, who it was, Joseph Goldstein, one of them. Yeah, like so many things in life, it's very simple, but it's not easy. And you know, that's the truth about a lot of things. On this sheet that you'll go home with, you look at any one thing and try and work with it. A lot of them, I'd like to see one, a lot of them we've talked about, many of the things. But some of them that are incredibly meaningful, we didn't, and I'm not going to have enough time to. But this one that says, don't allow any illness to define you. Don't give it that power. Remember I said to you, we are not arthritis. We are not our cancer. We are not the sadness around a divorce. We are not, if we just didn't do well at a job and got fired. That's there to be a lesson to us. It doesn't define us. Don't give it any energy. These things are more than I can go into, but that's important. Any of the other ones I'm just going to say a word about. By the way, when I was telling you what Yogananda said about smiling, did I finish the thought that when we do these functional MRIs now, I forgot. We see changes in the brain in the positive direction. The right areas light up and become more active that would lead us towards calmness, peace, positive outlooks, literally. And we are changing our brain. That's the other thing we know. We call it now the plasticity of the brain. It used to be whatever you were when you were 22, 23, that was it. But for many of us in this room, we're happy to announce, it's not at all the case. People in their 90s change their brain. So when you smile, we watch changes on functional MRIs that say you're doing something so good for yourself. You can't imagine. You're setting the next moments and years of your life up to be much better. So practicing smiling, which is on this list you're going to get, not a small thing. We didn't get a chance. I'm going to have us do one affirmation. I think we'll end that way. I didn't get a chance to talk about them enough. But affirmations are statements of our highest potential. We're not all living at our highest potential. I can say, because I've had it on my refrigerator for over 20 years, within me lies the energy to accomplish all that I will to do, and the rest of it. I have said that affirmation countless times. I just can't tell you. I go forth in perfect faith in the power of the omnipresent good to bring me what I need when I need it. I go forth in perfect faith in the power of the omnipresent good to bring me what I need when I need it. Now, does that mean I never complain in my life? Of course not. I wish it did. But I don't talk about that very often. I'm just being honest and, you know, letting you know that I know myself a little bit right now. But mostly I walk around, even as that negativity's coming in, Shanti, what do you want to do? I go forth in perfect faith in the power of the omnipresent good. We affirm over and over and over our highest potential until we become it. And we do become it. We do. I wish I had hours with you to tell you stories of people just like us. They go home with a simple affirmation. They go home choosing to smile. They go home choosing to tell their husband 3 nice things a day. 3 nice things a day. And with days, their whole life is different. And believe me, that was the hardest thing I could have asked her to do. The hardest thing, you know? This is Gyandev up in Ananda Village, he's sort of the father of everything Hatha Yoga up there. He says to people sometimes, I want you to think of the hardest Hatha pose for yourself, the hardest. Now get in it. And then he makes them hold it. the hardest pose, because that's what life's going to bring us. It's not bringing us easy stuff. It wouldn't change. Every once in a while great things happen. I have a great life, don't get me wrong. But hard stuff comes because it's packed with infinite potential to heal. Okay? So let's do one affirmation together, and then we'll end. We have to end. And then before you leave, make sure that you go home with this list. And I can't tell you enough how much I would encourage you to buy this book, if not now, at some point, Affirmations for Self-Healing. These are beautiful affirmations. Many of Yogananda's affirmations I can't suggest to people I don't know because, they're different. They're deep. They're just not westernized in any way is what I would say. But these are really more for our minds. And I guarantee you at least half, if not 3/4 of these are really going to speak directly to you, to everyone. Because most people are all up against the same stuff, just the circumstances change. And in the end, we're all up against the same thing, letting go of our ego, opening ourselves to higher sources of wisdom and guidance, which gives us infinite potential to be and do and know anything and everything. So let's do the energy affirmation. And there's a lot of affirmations about healing, by the way, true healing, but I didn't bring one and I don't have them, so I don't have one. This is, my body cells are...
Obey my will.
My body cells obey my will.
They dance with divine vitality. I am well. I am strong.
You come on up here and can you leave your perch there? Lead up. Wikipedia. You just, this is Heshika, for those of you who don't know. Is it in there? Oh, I thought it was, yeah. Sure, that's this. Because it's better if it's, energy is healing, ultimately it's what it is, but I'd like it to be just about something a little more. I was one of the masters.
Oh, one more page. There you are.
Thank you.
I was wrong again. Sorry. There it is.
Good health. I'm embarrassed to say I didn't know that. But anyway, okay, so what I'd like to do is this. You're going to repeat after me. And the way we do this is loudly at first because we find God doesn't need us to be doing it loudly. He already knows. But we do it because we need to find that energy. We need to capture it. We need to grab onto it. Once we have it, we'll say it loudly twice, then in a softer voice, then in a whisper, then silently. Don't let your energy drop. You say it with the same willpower, willingness, perseverance, everything we've talked about and mentioned a lot, okay? And then imagine yourself choosing to go through this twice a day for the whole next week. Really, remember the story of the woman who changed her life in 3 days. I really want you to hold on to that. Okay. My body cells obey my will.
My body cells obey my will.
They dance with divine vitality.
They dance with divine vitality.
I am well. I am strong.
I am well. I am strong.
I am a flowing river of boundless power and energy.
I am a flowing river of boundless power and energy.
My body cells obey my will.
My body cells obey my will.
They dance with divine vitality.
They dance with divine vitality.
I am well. I am strong.
I am well. I am strong.
I am a flowing river of boundless power and energy.
I am a flowing river of boundless power and energy.
My body cells obey my will.
My body cells obey my will.
They dance with divine vitality.
They dance with divine vitality.
I am well. I am strong.
I am well. I am strong.
I am a flowing river of boundless power and energy.
I am a flowing river of boundless power and energy.
I'm in a whisper. Holding on to that power. My body cells obey my will. They dance with divine vitality. I am well. I am strong. I am a flowing river of boundless power and energy. Now just say it mentally to yourself. My body cells obey my will. They dance with divine vitality. I am well, I am strong. I am a flowing river of boundless power and energy. Now just stay inward and listen to this prayer. O mighty source of all that is right and good, help me to see my strength as an expression of thy infinite power. Let me banish the darkness of disease. It is forever foreign to thy light. All right, great souls. We are right on the dot. I'll be here for a little bit for questions. But thank you all so much for coming and for being so present.
Thank you, Shanti. And we want to let you know, too, that Shanti is giving our service tomorrow.